Chicago Rockford International Airport reaches record-breaking cargo and passenger totals for the past year.
WIFR reporter Bria Walters talks to the airport's executive director about why the growth is important to Rockford and the entire region.
You look at kind of the tentacles of the economic engine of the airport, it's being felt all over our region.
The Chicago Rockford International Airport soars into a new year, lifted by a trail of success with cargo and passenger flights in 2024.
They've been growing tremendously in cargo. We've seen that, one of the fastest, largest growing cargo airports on the face of the planet, and now to see it taking shape, that they're breaking their own records in passenger.
More than 3.14 billion pounds of freight flew in and out of the airport last year. Executive Director Zach Oakley says cargo operations boost economies.
But we really have started to see the impact of our tenants with UPS, Amazon, Maersk, all adding flights to allow us to see that growth.
RFD reports even bigger wins with the passenger service. 262,432 people climbed in and out of planes at RFD, making last year the largest in its history. Oakley attributes that to convenience.
Seeing the new destinations with LAX and Nashville, both those destinations really helped with our numbers this year to see that growth. But we also saw additional frequency with existing destinations.
And Oakley says 2025 will be even bigger.
Really on both passenger and cargo, we're looking to add more services. So really, we're trying to leverage the advantages of Rockford.
In Rockford, Bria Walters, WIFR News.
Seasonal flights are available to passengers beginning January 24th and run through March 15th, going to Cancun, Mexico, Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, and Costa Rica. Seasonal flights to Los Angeles and Nashville will return in May.